Hello everyone, welcome to the review of Garmin Forerunner 245 Music. I've got a device with me that I don't use, but my wife does. This is my wife's unit. I've used the Garmin Forerunner 245 prior to owning a Fenix 6, just as a placeholder between selling my Fenix 5 Plus and buying the Fenix 6, basically waiting for it. So I want to go a little in depth with the Forerunner 245, and so I've tested this myself, but not the same unit, but I know well enough to review this and also talk you through some statistics and some activities that you can track with it and the accuracy. So we're going to be discussing a little bit about the looks of it after using it for a certain while. This has been 2 months. The new heart rate sensor that Garmin has, it's a version 3 of their Elevate heart rate sensors. The pulse oximeter, how well that functions, and the accuracy of that, and the heart rate readings, the accuracy of that in running, outside, running on a treadmill, and then doing strength training. Usually my wife uses mostly for treadmill running, elliptical, and strength training. She doesn't do a lot of outside running. I do. My outside running review is going to come with the Fenix 6 Sapphire that I have, but this review is going to mostly focus on treadmill running and strength training. Those are the two very common activities for an average gym goer or an average fitness enthusiast. So here goes. So firstly, you got to watch that's okay looking. Just going to focus on how it looks initially. Full button configuration, no touchscreen, which is pretty good, at least from a fitness perspective, because you don't have to be fiddling with a touchscreen when you're sweating, and also there's something about the feel of the physical buttons itself. And so I've always preferred using physical buttons. That's why I went for the Fenix or the Forerunner lineups. I've owned a touchscreen with Garmin Vivo Active HR, which was a kind of weird looking device, but it worked well for me. It was lightweight, but I only used it for 10 months before moving on to devices like Forerunners and Fenixes. So first, let's talk a little bit about the heart rate. So the sensor here, it takes 1 second, it's 1 second heart rate intervals. It's pretty accurate when you're in a sedentary state. Let me show you what that means. So it's taking continuous heart rate tracking instead of an Apple Watch or a Samsung that only tracks it when you want it to, and while doing some exercises or activities. But the good thing with any or most of the Garmin devices is that you can have all day heart rate running, and also you can also have all day pulse oximeter, it's called, but that drains a little bit of the battery, and I usually keep it off. I only keep it for sleep tracking. Provides you some more accurate metrics. So as you can see, you can go to the widgets from the home screen. Just scroll down. This is the back button, or down button, sorry. You get the training status, you get to health stats. Garmin changed their widgets a little bit. They included 2 or 3 stats into one widget, which is actually pretty good. It's even better on the Fenix 6 series, but on this Forerunner series, it's there's no glances, it's widget glances, but this is more of a grouping of widgets, I'd say. So in we go, heart rate. There's stress tracking. It does show that I'm a little bit more stressed right now. It's a little bit more than medium, above average stress. I don't know if I'm really highly stressed. I think it could be that it's my wife's unit and it's carrying on the stats from there. And then the body battery. This is a new feature that they added to the Forerunner and the new Fenix series. I think it's, although, you know, who knows what your body battery is, right? I mean, you know, if you feel better or if you're really 91, 92%. For me, what it gives me is it gives a good estimate of how active I've been or how much rest I've taken, and it depending on the rest, depending on the amount of hours that I had sleep, it charges to whatever percentage that it shows. 92 is a pretty good percentage. My wife and we didn't go to the gym today, and so it shows pretty good. But if you were doing some activities today and went to the gym, the battery would certainly be around 50 to 60%. But that's something that's there. I don't know how you can check the accuracy of it, but it does kind of give you an estimate of how active you are, or actually how much more battery your body has in their terms. So moving on to the other widgets that this one has, it has training status, which is a cool feature from Garmin. They've been doing this one since Phoenix 5 series. Since my wife doesn't do a lot of outside running, it does not show the status, because for the status you need to run outdoors at least twice, and you can keep on doing once a week to update your status. So it also shows your VO2 max, which is good right now. 42 for women is very good. And then training load gives the estimated load, the Garmin first beat tracking metrics that she's been training low. I think this is because we haven't been to the gym in the last week, and so the load is pretty low right now. And then the recovery hours, if you put in a 3 kilometer or 5 kilometer treadmill session or a run outside, it'll show up anywhere between 25 to 35 hours of recovery time. This is a good feature. It lets you know how long before you need to or you can actually go. Although not accurate, you can only know how you feel the next day after an activity. You might be ready, even though the watch shows 14 hours to recover or take it easy. It also tells you to take it easy or easy effort recommended based on the strenuous activity you did the day before or 2 days before. So that's a good feature to have. It shows how much you worked. Moving on to after health stats, you have my day widget. You can add it. I don't think it comes stock. You just add it on going onto the settings. I like having this widget. It just gives you at a glance your calories burned, your intensity minutes, your steps. I don't think Garmin Forerunner 245 have step tracking. It doesn't have a barometric altimeter anywhere. I'm just looking for the altimeter, hole, but there's nothing of that sort. So there's no step tracking. Sorry, there is step tracking. There is no floor tracking or floors climbed tracking. So the other feature, the cool feature that was added to this unit was pulse ox. Let's see how that works. Let's give it a few seconds. It should track. It usually takes a little while. It requires you to keep pretty still. Sometimes it's even hard on my Phoenix device. It takes around anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds. There you go. It shows 94%. You can get into the widget a little bit. I think not now. Okay, I think it's in the other watch. It's not in the Forerunner. So the widgets are pretty basic, as you can see. See the intensity minutes. You can see the calories, active, and then resting calories. The body battery, like I showed you, the last activity or the last run. You can dig into the details. As you can see a lot more stats like never before. Usually Garmin has a good amount of stats, but I think they've increased the amount of stats that they can show on watches. So you need the phone to look at the graphs and the nerdy stats, but if you want the very basic stats, you don't even need to get to your phone. You can just look it up on the watch itself. So it shows distance, time, pace, calories, average HR, max HR, also the anaerobic effect that the exercise had, and aerobic effect that the exercise had, and also cadence, which is pretty good. I think this was more of a walk. Anyway, and then moving on to the rest of the widgets. Let's get there. Let's get back. This is the back button. Let's get back. It's a history of activities for the last 30 days that it shows you. It's a nice graph. It gives you it gives you an estimate of how much you've been putting your work in the gym or on the treadmill or outside for the last 30 days. It gives you a good glance of your activity level. And now Spotify or music, any music provider that you have, on this device, the music one, which is a little bit expensive than the non-music version, you have Spotify, Deezer, and I think you have Runcast for podcast. Anyway, these are the only three that I use. I think Amazon Music was recently added on to this device as well, but we use Spotify, and my wife uses Spotify as well. You could change your music provider by holding this button for 3 to 4 seconds, and you can choose your music providers. It's Spotify, or you can just move MP3 files from your computer onto this watch, and then you can also have Deezer here. These are the apps installed. I could add the Runcast, like I said. I could add Amazon Music, like I said, but I usually use Spotify, and that works really well for me. Spotify is much better in the wide range of music that you can find. Here you can connect the headphones. You can just choose what headphones you want connected. I have two headphones. One is the Powerbeats and one is the Alien.com, or it's a Bose wireless headphones. Moving on to the calendar. The calendar is a nice feature, but that that I don't use personally as much. It does just show you if you have an event on your personal phone. I usually have two phones, business and personal. I connect this to my personal phone, and so I don't have many events on this one. But if you had a meeting, let's say, it does show up here, and if you could put, I don't know if you could put reminders, but it does show you a nice glance. I do remember seeing some review videos that show how well the meetings or events are organized in a day. So another cool feature, they've updated the weather widget. Previously only used to be the temperature currently, the highs and lows. Right now they give you the wind direction, the wind speed, and also the humidity right on the widget. You can go inside the widget, you can see hourly temperature changes, and you could move there on to how the rest of the 5 days at least, or next 4 days is looking for you. That's a pretty good feature. Moving on, I also, just to note, I don't think the weather information is 100% accurate, because I think it updates whenever your device syncs with your phone, and so I wouldn't really trust the weather on your watch right away. I mean, it does sync randomly and I think frequently, but if you want the most up-to-date information, I recommend you looking at the phone and not your watch. I mean, if you just want to know how the temperature is, if you want to wear a jacket or not, then I think that's it's good to look at the watch, but not if it's raining or not. So some notifications, currently I have no notifications, and there's no notifications. Otherwise you'll see some text messages. You can reply. If you have an Android device, what you can do is just to have some predetermined replies on your phone and then set it up with it. So that's about the watch in itself. The construction is pretty good. I would say the plastic used on this is, I think Garmin calls it, I think they chemically strengthened this polymer somehow, and it's very sturdy. I could say that. Any scratches, it can take a beating, that's for sure. I think I put a screen protector on this because it's only Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which is not highly scratch resistant. I usually prefer sapphire, but I know that for devices, for Forerunner devices, there was never really any sapphire model, and so I decided to put a screen protector on it from Amazon for $10, I think, Canadian. And then even the back is plastic with the sensor embedded in it. The charging port is the one that is similar to the Phoenix and all the other Forerunner models, and also the rest of the models that are coming in Garmin lineup. I like what they're doing with their charging port, even though it's not something like USB-C or a micro USB. They have one charger for all the devices, and they don't want to, and I think what they did in between was some clip-on chargers, which was really irritating. The clip-on chargers are not really a good fit. They used it for the Forerunner 645 series, and also they used it for a Mark series. I don't know, a luxury watch and a clip-on charger. Yeah, that's not really a good combination. I don't think they put a really good thought into it. Regarding the bands, it's industry standard 20mm bands. You can change it. This is obviously not the stock band. I just got it from Barton watch bands on Amazon. It's a pretty popular watch shop. Just look it up. And this is not a sponsored video by any means, but those straps are pretty good. Barton straps. I mean, at least they look pretty good. I don't know about the durability. Used it for around a month or a month and a half. They stand pretty okay, but I think there's a little bit of wear and tear here and there, as you can see. So moving on to the accuracy of the heart rate, I think that's the most important thing to me, is the accuracy of the heart rate, because the new Elevate heart rate sensors are supposed to be more accurate than the last sensors. The last sensors were accurate to the point where they're good for steady state running, but not really for strength training, because for strength training, it would give you wildly inaccurate metrics. So I've compared previously when I was in the gym, my Phoenix 5 Plus connected to a heart rate strap and another Forerunner device I owned at the time. It was a Forerunner 645, and the Forerunner 645 without the heart rate strap for strength training, it was really crap, and the heart rate variation was around 20 to 30 beats per minute per second, and so per minute. And so I think that was very inaccurate for strength training, although for steady state running, most of these sensors are really good. Most of these devices or the optical heart rate sensors, where they falter is strength training and also CrossFit based activities, boot camp style activities such as burpees and such, wherever there is wrist flexion involved. So I don't really trust these devices, but I gotta say though, these devices with the updated Elevate heart rate sensors are much closer to the chest strap than it was with the version 2 of the optical heart rate sensor. This is version 3 of the optical heart rate sensor for Elevate, Garmin Elevate. And so I'll show you what I mean. I have stats to back it up. Let's get into Connect app. Just a little bit of a phone. There you go. So I already opened up the activities page. Just have a look at how good the activity tracking is on their devices. I really like the Garmin app. I don't know if some people have complaints about how it's organized because they like the Fitbit ecosystem and the Apple ecosystem, but I think Garmin does the best when it comes to when it comes to their apps. I think they show a lot of good metrics, and I like how it looks for I like how much data is presented on this Garmin Connect apps, although there are some bugs sometimes here and there, but overall it's one of the best apps that I work with. I also use Fitbit devices and I'm okay with their app. It's pretty nice, pretty well organized, but I don't think they provide as many metrics as Garmin does. So getting into the calendar, I just want to show you how my wife's activities are actually. So you can get into the calendar and choose the day that you want to see and just see steps, sleep, heart rate, and then stress. And other, if for women, you can also see the menstrual cycle. So I want to take you through some activities before, and then show you how it works for strength training. Let's see. Heart rate would be here around 93 or 94, and the maximum would be around 120 or max 125, or if you're lucky 130. What I mean by that is, whenever there is wrist flexion, the heart rate didn't used to register properly, or Garmin's algorithms that at that time with that heart rate sensor were not that accurate. But here I really noticed that difference in, it could be that it's so lightweight, this device is very lightweight and it could give you better readings, but I can also positively say that this is happening on my Phoenix 6 as well, which is much heavier, which is 72 grams. I have the titanium model. Review is upcoming soon for that. It is really accurate. It's not very accurate, but it is close to being accurate. So I don't really carry a chest strap anymore. I used to do that for strength training most of the time, just to ease my mind of getting accurate data, getting accurate calories burned. So now I don't have to, which is a relief. And so the last question, again, once I showed you this last question, is it really worth the money that you pay for it? Because, Garmin isn't cheap. Garmin has always had their devices at a premium price. Not all, but at least most of them. Most of their flagship devices, like the Forerunners, like the Phoenixes, like the Mark right now, which is crazy price, by the way. So, is it right now in Canadian dollars? It would be around $479 for the music version and $400 or $419 for non-music version. I think in the US it's $300 for the non-music and then $350 for the music. Is it really worth that price? If you're in the Garmin ecosystem, and if you're looking for more accuracy in your heart rate data and in your daily activity tracking, if you don't mind shelling out as much money as you would shell out on an Apple Watch or a Samsung Galaxy Watch, then it's, I would say, worth it in terms of activity tracking, in terms of 24-hour heart rate, in terms of the accuracy, the better accuracy. That's number two. Number three would be, actually it would not be looks, but number three would be the form factor, like the ease of use that you'd have. You don't have the touchscreen to fiddle around. You'd have physical buttons. That I would say is a really good advantage. Number 4 is the weight. I don't know, there's a big difference, but holding onto a Samsung device and an Apple device and holding onto this one, I think this caps around at 40 grams or 39 grams actually, which is pretty light. You won't even notice it. And for sleep tracking, this is really good. They do they do better sleep tracking, I think, than Samsung or Apple, or close to Fitbit. Fitbit has a really good sleep tracking app for themselves. So is it really worth the price? It depends on what you want. So for me, if I had a choice between 245 Music, which is 479, an Apple Watch, which is around the same price, which is 500 Canadian, and then a Samsung Galaxy Watch, which is around 380 Canadian, I would shell out a little bit extra and I would go for this. And I like the music, and I like the heart rate sensor, and I like how lightweight it is. The only thing that I may not be a big fan of is a little bit of the look. I would have preferred a metal bezel around, like you have for the 645 series, Garmin 645 Forerunner series. They've gone all plastic with this. If there was a metal bezel, I would have almost zero complaints about it. So that's the review of the Garmin Forerunner 245 Music. I don't know if it's in-depth. I don't know if it helps you make a purchase decision. I think it's a really good device. If I wasn't really attracted to the Phoenix, I would actually go for this device. I've had this device for 3 weeks. I used this. But this one, particularly, is my wife's unit, which she used for around 2 months. So there you go, guys. That's the review video. Hope you like it.